Great, thanks for having me. This is an important topic for those of you that are doing some safe adoption, some of this organizational change with safe. It is certainly one of the challenges that we see when performing a safe adoption is roles and identifying roles. Fundamentally, when we do a safe transformation, that means we're asking people to work in a new way. We want to ensure that people that are going to be operating differently, we want to make sure that they are operating in a way that they enjoy, that they love, they're fulfilling, kind of their individual or personal mission as well. And SAFE has a variety of roles that people can fill, and it is that's our goal today, is to talk about what those roles are, who are candidates to go fill those roles, and so let's just jump into it. So here are some questions that we want to have answered. We want to discuss what are the critical roles in SAFE and why mapping is so important, right? We want to start with why. We want to talk about each one of those roles and the responsibilities for them. What are key attributes for those roles? How would you identify them? We also need to discuss the role of the managers. So we don't just want to talk about SAFE roles. We want to talk about those people's managers, possibly the functional manager. They can be disruptive, right? If we're asking people to work in a new way, we have to also ensure those managers know that there is a new way of working. Otherwise, they can, how they measure and assess and inform and coach people. Managers need to know the new way of working as well, and that's key. And then finally, we're going to take a brief look at training. I think there's only one slide on that, but it is an important aspect, right? If we're asking people to operate in a new way, we have to ensure that they know that new way. It's our responsibility to make sure that they know this new way of working. They've been effectively trained so they can be successful and the organization can be successful. All right, let's jump into it. Let's start with that why. Why is it so critical to understand SAFE roles and then perform that mapping? And as we mentioned, that lean agile transformation really depends on people embracing a new way of thinking, a new way of working. Right, we're trying to move from a traditional approach where a specific developer or engineer or person in our organization maybe work on multiple projects. They're kind of working in a silo. They're not sure where their priorities are. We're gonna move them to more of a collaborative way of working. Right, they're part of a team, and that team has a vision and a goal and direction. So historically, this has been successful, right? In my experience, anyway, moving people to this new way of working is really freeing. I get to plan my own work. I'm self-managed. I'm self-organized. I work very collaboratively with people. A lot of people enjoy that new way of working. In fact, I've seen in the past where, and this is at frankly, it was an organization down by you, as we were talking earlier, where there was it was an engineer organization, and kind of people very traditional. I like working in my silo. I'm very proud of the work that we create. The technical work that we create. And we moved them to a SAFE model where they're now on a team and they're part of a team of teams, and the team of teams is building a larger solution. And it took a couple PIs for some of those more traditional engineers to come around, but certainly after it was around the second PI that one of the very traditional elder engineers there made a statement that we should never go back to that old way of working. This stuff is just awesome, and that's the kind of success we're trying to see, right? We want to get that success because those people have influence, right? And there's a bunch of people at our organization that have concerns about this new way of working, and we need to make it a positive experience for them. This transformation has to be positive. And that is certainly true, right? There's rumors and misinformation running around. Hey, we're adopting the SAFE thing. What does that mean? That can cause any change, causes uncertainty and fear and worry. Will I like the new job and the role I'm going to serve? Will I even have a new job? And that can sometimes lead to attrition. But the key with any change is to explain why, right? We're not just doing this because we want to go disrupt all the people in our organization, right? There is a reason for this. And the common reason is business agility. We need to create an environment and a structure that can respond to changes in the business cycle and can respond to new opportunities. And we saw that this year with COVID, right? How many organizations that do these big annual planning cycles, all of a sudden in March, they had to throw all those out the window, right? It was a different world come the second or third week of March. And how could organizations quickly pivot to new priorities, new key things that need to be performed in the organization? So that's really the goal, and that's the why, right? We need to be more agile. And certainly as we look at SAFE, next slide here, as we look at SAFE, that is our goal, right? At the top of SAFE is business agility. We need our organizations to be more agile. And how we're going to do that is we're going to align around value. We're going to create these value streams, and we're going to fund those value streams, and set lead roles within them. We're going to have product managers that lead those value streams, product or solution managers, right? SAFe realizes value streams either as an art, an essential, or as a large solution. And there's visionary leaders of the solution manager or product manager, and with certain guidance over business owners. So everyone that participates in SAFe is part of one of these value streams. They are on a team down here that is part of one of these value streams. And we want to talk about the roles that are important to those teams, right? There's certain team level roles as Scrum Master and Product Owner, and the individual developers, right? Those are the team level roles down here. And then at the Agile Release Train level, we want to talk about the Solution Train Engineer and the Product Manager, Solution Manager, and then as well as the Architect, right? Those roles. So I want to talk basically about the roles that form the teams in the Agile Release Trains. And then do a nod to the people in the functional managers. We want to talk to them as well and explain how key it is to get them on board and train them on this new way of working. There's some other roles we're not going to cover. We're not going to cover the system role. That's a key critical role. Usually a technology role, it's their job to accelerate the team's delivery by doing some end-to-end integration and test. It's usually the case that individual teams don't have the infrastructure or need the knowledge necessarily to take their small change and integrate it in the entire end-to-end system. So there's a certain cutoff point where we say teams, you have to test to a certain point, and then we'll let the system team provide feedback beyond that. So that certainly is a technical team. A lot of times we can see an agile team on the art become one of the system teams, but that is a certain key role. We're not going to talk about it. Also, all the roles within LPM, they're responsible for strategy and investment funding, those operations. We're not going to talk about those roles. And then last but not least, another portfolio level role we're not going to talk about is epic owners. We're focused mainly on those development roles and our agile release train level roles. And which is predominantly a huge percentage of the people, right? The people that we're going to be moving is that set of people. All right, let's talk about those SAFe roles. So first off, we want to talk about changing mindset. In a traditional approach, typically we had some kind of budgets, we had some kind of schedule, we had some kind of set of requirements, and we typically measured success on did you meet these requirements following this schedule within this budget, right? It wasn't focused on value. It was really focused on compliance or how well did you comply to the thing we specified last year or the year before. And instead we want to change that mindset to every increment, think about what's the most valuable thing I can do? What's the most valuable thing we can work on? And going back to that COVID example, it's probably the case that if every organization followed their plan that they made in the Q4 the previous year, Q4 say 2019, we came up with this nice annual plan and we were going to execute it. If we measured ourselves on compliance to that plan, we probably many organizations wouldn't be around today, right? Certainly we had to pivot, right? The plans change. So we want to get out of that more traditional mindset and move to one that instead of I'm trying to coordinate, setting deadlines, and I know all the answers and I'm directing people, to one of you have all the answers, right? It's unfair of me to think that I know more about, and that's the definition of a knowledge worker, right? They know more than their managers. I can't teach you more about the work you do than you know already, right? So I want to coach you, and I want to set challenging objectives and challenge teams to produce more value. Instead of me telling them what the answer is, I want to ask them for the answer, right? So it's much more collaborative environment. And it's really more the move from a more traditional worker to a more knowledge-based worker. The things that are how we manage and organize around when we have knowledge workers. So let's run through some roles here, the ones we said we were going to discuss. We'll start with the Scrum Master role. The Scrum Master is as a member of the Agile team, and it's their job. They know the new way of working, right? They understand the new mindset. They know what it looks like, and they are constantly guiding the team and directing the team towards this new way. As people start adopting agile practices, it's very easy to fall back into our old ways, right? We need constant reminders, right? And those Scrum Masters, that's their job, that's their role. They stay there and they remind us of the new process, the new way of working. They're not the managers, right? They don't tell people how to work. In fact, they don't have any authority. They are a team member like all the other members, and instead they really lead through influence, right? So a skill that we expect of Scrum Masters is certainly the knowledge about the new way of working, but also being influential and empathizing and coaching, right? Good coaching skills for Scrum Masters. So that's the attributes we look for. They have a lot of empathy. They are servant leaders. They're not command and control leaders. They listen and support team members. They encourage them, support the development of others. As we mentioned before, they lead via influence instead of having authority, because they really don't have authority. They're thinking beyond day to day. They're thinking more long term, right? They're less worried about solving the problems of today. Well, they are solving problems today, but more thinking, I want to change the process. I want to change how we act and communicate with one another. Who serves these roles? Like any other role, we want people to find where their passions are, right? So good candidates for Scrum Masters are really just anyone that has a passion for servant leadership. They have a passion for helping people, improving people, and teams and organizations. I've been involved with a lot of engineering companies. It's very interesting to me how many engineers they gravitate towards this, which was surprising me with a background of engineering. So you might draw from developers or testers or even development leads, right? Development leads that have less interest in the day-to-day mundane development activities and more in the leadership and growing of people. You also may have to hire these, right? This is a new skill. Most organizations that are adopting Agile and Safe, this is a skill that they have grown internally. So it may be likely that you may have to hire, right? So this might be new hires as well. Okay, and what we're looking for are people that they have that servant leadership. They have empathy for others. They don't want to lead through directing and command control. Instead, they want to lead through influence and guiding and constant feedback with teams. All right, product owner roles. Staying down at the team level, we had Scrum Masters and product owners. So product owner's responsibility is to be able to represent the customer or the business down to the team, not really down to the teams, but to the teams, right? They're the ones with the vision and the problems to be solved. They are well connected with customers and customer needs or business needs. And they're really that bridge, right? The bridge that helps move the needle for the business, right? And ensuring that the work is prioritized and reflects the priority of the work reflects the needs of the current needs of the customer and the business. They're a nice bridge. They have to explain and communicate business value to the teams, and then vice versa, be able to understand the viability, feasibility of the systems we're building and explain that back to the business. So, and certainly they have to write stories and have to participate in there's a bunch of safe practices that they have to participate in. Which is also a key aspect as well. They need to be available daily to the teams, right? These are not people that set goals and directions and then disappear for 2 weeks and come back at the end and say, hey, I'm going to give at sprint planning, you're going to tell me what you're going to do, and then at the sprint demo 2 weeks later, I'm going to tell you if you met the goals or not, right? They are part of the team. They are available daily, constantly throughout the day to address any team questions or to clarify any of the work with teams. No bottlenecks, right? We don't want the product owner to be a bottleneck. If a team has a question about it, team member has a question or direction, an answer today, not at the end of the demo. That's critical to helping teams commit to work, right? Agile's big about commitment. Let's commit a small box of work, and we're going to do our best to meet those goals. Having answers and knowledge from a product owner can certainly be a bottleneck. So these people, if we're looking at people that have to be available on a daily basis and available to teams, that's something we would expect from product. What are good attributes and who would make a good product owner? Certainly have to have a passion for what we're building, right? They have a passion for building a creative product for the business. They have a passion for filling customer needs. They're good communicators. They're also good negotiators, right? They have to balance the needs of the business who want to accelerate some development we're doing with what's viable and feasible and what the teams can actually produce. So they have to create an environment of trust both within the team and then outside the team as well, back to the customers and the business that the team's delivering to. And of course, they have to have courage to stand up when, and either break hard news in either direction. And again, they're the vision. They're the ones that have the vision for where we're headed for the work that the team is doing. Where do these people come from? You probably have business analysts. You might have existing product or project managers. If you're an engineering company, system engineers, certainly. System engineers that are more on the product side rather than the technical side are good candidates. Domain experts. Even you can draw from architects, right? So architects that are technical in nature, but they also can be, they're not, in fact, a good product owner to some degree technical in nature, but these folks, instead of having a passion about the architecture and technical, they have the passion about what is that technology going to do for my customer, for my business, right? That's their focus. Great, let's jump and talk about developers. This is the role that a mass majority of people in the org are going to sit, right? These are the developers or engineers that are on that Agile team. They're the final makeup, right? The Agile team is composed of the product owner, the Scrum Master who we just talked about, and then the Agile team members themselves, right? The people that do a mass majority of the work, that deliver value for our enterprise organization. So these are the folks that enjoy building and creating and developing solutions. They have a passion for technical mastery. I really want to, I want to stay current in my technology. I want to learn the latest things. I want to experiment with the latest technical solutions. I enjoy building and creating things, right? They're the builders and creators. As we mentioned, Techno Mastery, they have attention to detail. They perform a broad range of tasks. They're not just developers. They're also going to build tests, right? Test case and automated tests. And they're going to work within guidelines for, and they enjoy working with the guidelines for coding standards, definition of done, and those types of practices. Where do these folks come from? You probably have them already, right? They're going to be the developers and the folks that build the systems today. But we also, they might come from testers and domain experts. There also might be in your organization, because we may have a lot of project managers or architects, right? So people that actually, I'm a project manager, used to be a developer. I don't really want to be a product owner anymore. I don't meet that goal. So you may find that some people actually move away from the management role that they had before and more back into one that is building things, because I have a passion for building and technology. That's where my passions come from. So a lot of these are obvious, right? They come from your existing pool of developers that already exist. But you might see in a transformation, people moving back into getting their hands dirty, and because that's where their passions lie compared to other spots we haven't saved for them. All right, as we move up to the art, we're going to be scaling some of these practices. So, in fact, I can jump back. We talked about the team level. The team level has a Scrum Master, a product owner, and then team members that go build the work. We're going to scale a couple of those roles, right? So if the Scrum Master is a servant leader for the team, reducing impediments, understands the new way of working, continually guiding the team to remind them about the new way of working. The release train engineer does that for the larger team of teams, right? In safe agile teams, or all agile teams are part of the agile release train, which is the agile team of teams. At scale, typically, an individual team can't get sufficient work done, so they become part of the team of team that builds these larger applications, larger systems that we need at our large organizations, larger businesses. So we can think of really scaling the roles, the team roles, up to the agile release train roles. And the first one we'll talk about here is the agile release train engineer, the release train engineer. They're very similar to Scrum Master, and they are trying to optimize and remove impediments and accelerate flow, but not just for a team, a larger team of teams. But just like the Scrum Master, they don't have authority. They typically lead through influence, but the influence is really large. Think about it. The impediments and blocks that a Scrum Master is going to see are localized to the team, and they have to work across teams to coordinate those solutions. But if I think about my team of teams, what are some impediments that are going to be across the team of teams? Those may extend deeper into the organization, into different parts of the organization. So it's commonly good that a release train engineer has influence and has connections with that broader part of the organization. So if a Scrum Master has an impediment on a team, but it's not something really solvable by the team of teams, right? That might be where we we may raise that impediment beyond the team up to the agile release train. That impediment would be brought up to the release train engineer. So it really helps when those folks have connections within the org and can run down these types of impediments. They share a lot of the same properties really with Scrum Masters. They're servant leaders as well. They're focused on execution. They're trying to create an environment of mutual influence. Like the Scrum Masters, they lead with persuasion rather than authority because they don't have any. They're typically different than Scrum Masters. They're system thinkers. They're not trying to optimize a team. They're optimizing the whole value stream here, the larger value stream. They need excellent people skills. Again, like leading through mutual influence. They have good empathy. They guide rather than direct. And certainly they're part of that extended Scrum Master group. So, right, within the team Scrum Masters, there's constant collaboration and Scrum of Scrums with the release train engineer, even on up to the larger organization, typically in the Lean Agile Center of Excellence, right, the ones that's trying to improve the execution of the organization in general. What are good sources for these? You may have existing Scrum Masters. Certainly, Scrum Masters are a good place to draw. You might have other Lean Agile coaches. That's what a lot of what a release train engineer, they're coaching teams and even other Scrum Masters, right? As we grow our Scrum Master base, release train engineers are there to coach those Scrum Masters. If you have program or project managers today, we don't have project managers. Program project managers aren't in SAFe, right? So people, where would those folks go? Well, if they have a passion for the products we're building, they might serve as a product owner. But if they more of a passion for the execution, right? I love tracking execution and making execution better. They would be great release train engineers or possibly even Scrum Masters, right? That's their goal. That's their calling is helping people execute better, getting rid of impediments. Now that role, as we talked about earlier, it's a different mindset change. Instead of walking around the clipboard saying, "Are you on schedule or not?" They're really asking the teams, "How can we go faster? And how can the organization help you become execute better?" So again, it's a mindset change. All right, rounding out the Agile release train level, we have the product manager. Like product owners, so we're basically like we scaled the Scrum Master, the release train engineer, and in similar ways scaling the product owner to the product manager role. These folks have a passion for creating products that are desirable and feasible and viable and sustainable, and they delight their customers, right? They have a passion for product and product development. That's what a product manager is. They manage that larger ARC backlog that spans the team of teams. Not just the backlog, but also the longer term visionary roadmap for the product. What are we going to be doing next increment, the increment after that, and then maybe a year, 2 or 3 after that, right? We've got some kind of vision about where we're heading and the problems to be solved. They collaborate with a wide set of stakeholders, right? Within the business, within multiple customer segments, depending on what type of organization you are. So they have a wider set of stakeholders and customers. My value stream may be delivering to customers, might be delivering to other internal value streams. It could be delivering solutions to a bunch of different sectors within the business. So that set of stakeholders is where I have to engage. I have to engage those folks and be engaged and help them organize and prioritize my backlog and my roadmap. They definitely set that as the bullets there, third bullet there. They are the vision, right? They're the visionary for the train. They create inspirational, cool products that developers wake up every morning wanting to build and create challenging goals for those folks to build great products that delight their customers, as we said before. All right, what are some good attributes? They need domain knowledge, right? They have to understand the problem in which we are building these solutions, right? Because they have to understand the problems to be solved so that we can build the right solutions to solve them. They're very forward thinking. They've got vision. They've got good market knowledge and market sensing, knowing where things are headed, what direction things are taking, and they build products that meet them, right? They're constantly getting customer input, but that good market knowledge is key. That's the old Henry Ford statement, right? If I build what people wanted or asked me to build, I would have built a faster horse, right? So we want faster horses sometimes, but sometimes we want a car, right? So that ability to market sense and move things in a certain direction is key as well. And of course, they engage stakeholder and get consensus. Where do product managers come from? A wide variety. You might have existing product managers, so that's a source, right? If you already have a product management function, that's great. You draw from them. Your existing project and program managers, we talked about before, some of those folks may be passionate about execution. Some of those folks may be more passionate about the products we build and the problems we solve for people, either internal customers or external customers that we sell to. If you're in an engineering organization, system engineers that are more product focused and less technical focused make a great candidate. So if you're an engineering organization that has a system engineer role, some of those engineers might gravitate more towards the architecture side, which we'll talk about next, and some might move more towards the product side. You probably have market analysts or domain experts or business analysts, subject matter experts. All those folks that have product knowledge, domain knowledge of the problems to be solved are great candidates. All right, let's push on to the next role. In some cases, the product manager is both, right? I think of, the Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is a great candidate for a product manager. He does great market sensing, knows what to build. but he's also technical, right? Elon is also the chief engineer at SpaceX, right? All the engineering decisions flow through him. So he's great at setting vision, direction, and having a series of product owners that manage that, but he also is an architect. Very few product managers that have that vision and connection also have the depth of knowledge required to understand the technical decisions that have to be made as well. So in SAFE, at that troika up there, leading the Agile Release Train, we talked about the product manager setting the vision, release train engineer, removing impediments, helping execution. But we need that third role up there as well, which is the architect. And they're really responsible for, as the slide says, defining and communicating the shared technical architectural vision. So there is a roadmap of features and functions to be created set by the product manager. And it's really the solution or systems architect's role to ensure the technical solution is going to meet those current needs as well as those future needs, right? There is a future vision set, and an architect might look at that and say, I'm not sure in 9 months how we can realize that goal, right? So they provide and communicate and evolve that broader technical and architectural view of the solution. They're looking ahead at that roadmap to ensure that the technical platform we have today can support the current needs, but also can support the future needs. And if necessary, they're lobbying to put backlog items into the program backlog to go learn and explore alternatives and mitigate risks so that we have fewer surprises downstream, right? And that's always a challenge. That's always the duality that we have in that program backlog, is building the things we have to build today to meet the values and goals, but also the red enabler work, right? The other work that is typically architecture work, which is mitigating risks, exploring design alternatives, modeling, prototyping, mock-ups, those things that we have listed as bullets there. Right? And that's really the architect's job, is to make sure that the solutions that we have today are viable today as well as viable tomorrow. So what are some of their attributes? Obviously, they love technology. They are masters of technology. They are mentors and consensus builders. While they're masters of technology, it's a huge assumption to assume they know more about the technology than the teams. It's not their job to be the answer man for teams, right? They are more holistic, right? They're broad. They certainly are broad and can have less depth. Depth is good, but breadth is required, right? Because they have to have the vision about how all these different technologies are going to piece together with one another. So they have to have a passion for technology and staying current on technology. They need to be connected with the business. They have to be able to translate business needs and future business needs into technology. Like other SAFE leadership positions, though, this is a mindset change. This is not an ivory tower architect. It's not that we make a bunch of technical decisions, throw over the wall to teams and wish them well, right? There is feedback, right? Lean Agile requires feedback. So these decisions are not one way. These are, I think this is a good decision. Let's throw an enabler in the backlog and have teams go explore and learn and maybe mock some things up and do some spikes to learn and to validate the decisions that we're making, right? We don't want to make decisions without validating. So these architects are now more incremental in the way they work, and they're much more closely involved with teams than typically the way they work. Certainly a source for this is your existing architects. Most organizations have architects, but it is, as we mentioned, a mindset shift, which we just talked about. You can draw from those existing architects. The system engineers, we talked about that role if you're an engineering company, those system engineers that are more focused on technology rather than the products, right? The products and creating desirable and inspirational products for end users. So technical system engineers is a good candidate. Technical leads, right? We don't really have a lead role in SAFE. Teams are self-managed or self-organized. So if I served as a role as a tech lead, that's not saying that tech leads don't become team members. Certainly within teams, there are people with more knowledge in certain areas and less knowledge in others. And teams will look to other team members for that guidance. So your technical leads a lot of time end up on teams, but they can also end up as system or solution architects as well. And certainly existing developers, engineers that have a passion more for long-term vision, long-term direction, they're great candidates as well. All right, this is a shout out to the SAFE role for managers. So what we're asking within these different roles is to change the way they think, to change the way they work, and to change the way they operate. But the system, we're walking into an organization that already has a system, and they've got measures, they've got HR, and they've got a series of roles defined, and in order to be a certain level, you've got to meet these certain criteria, and management knows about those roles. So how can we change the system, right? We love Deming's quote here that it's not enough that management commit themselves to quality and productivity. They must know what it is they must do, right? And they can't delegate this. Only management can change the system. If we tell people they have a new role, and when the team members adopt a new role, if the managers aren't on board with that, the teams aren't going to change. And I have a great example of that. This was at a first PI planning for an engineering company, and we had some skills. I think they were algorithm people, and historically there would be an algorithm lead, right, that was responsible for all the algorithm work that was going to be done on this program, and they would delegate the work to the team members, and in this case we were doing safe and being agile, and the 5 or 6 algorithm members were not on an algorithm team anymore. They were cross-functional. They were on, say, 3 other teams. There were a couple algorithm people here, 2 or 3 over there, and 1 over here. And this person, they were still responsible for the technical integrity of what the algorithm people did, right? They were on the architect team with that role and responsibility. But they were not happy with this. Literally, if anybody's been to PI planning, it's a very collaborative activity. It's where teams are committing to the work that the agile release train is going to do for the next entire increment. So it's usually very collaborative. This person sat in the corner. Anyway, they didn't participate. We tried to invite them in to participate, have them sit with teams, and it didn't go well. Well, that person ended up, I heard the story that they went back to their functional organization, back to management, and told them, you can't believe what's going on with this safe adoption. We don't have our algorithm people sitting together to do the algorithm work. They're distributed. And what easily could have happened is that functional manager could have walked into that agile release train and said, you're not taking all my people and separating them. We're going to pull them back, and they're not going to be working cross-functional, right? If they're not doing algorithm work, I'm going to find algorithm work for them to do. I don't want them to be on a functional team helping other team members do their work. I want them working on the stuff that I want them to work on. Right? If a very traditional manager, right, I get paid and reward for the algorithm success within our organization, within the overall success. That's kind of a very traditional mindset. So we can see if the managers back at that functional area didn't understand this new way of working, then they could massively disrupt this execution, because the agile release train, after all, is really just composed of a bunch of different functional areas, and we need the managers within those functional areas on board with this change, right? Otherwise it can cause disruption. And the long story short there is that the manager was tipped. They weren't aware. They were aware of the new way of working, and they just informed the person that well, this is it was a safe pilot that was about 6 or 7 years ago, and they were piloting safe to see if they want to roll it out, and we're experimenting with it. And if this doesn't fit in your way of working today, we can find another program for you to work on. But be aware that we are piloting this with the adoption of applying it everywhere. So you might want to be part of the experiment, right? Help us learn. And sure enough, that person was much more engaging going forward. Okay, so it is a new way of working. We hadn't done justice by that person for teaching them the new way of working, which is why they reacted the way they reacted. But it was key that management was aware, or it could have caused big disruption. Right. So that leads us into the next couple slides here. Managers need to understand this new leadership mindset. I'm not telling individuals what to do. I am not their subject matter expert. I'm not directing them. I'm not the answer man. I don't know all the answers, right? The teams know all the answers, for God's sakes. It's not about driving my decision. It's about the teams discovering what the right thing to do is and them executing it. I'm trying to grow. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm trying to grow people, right? So we become, as a manager, more of a coach, more of a facilitator. We're trying to grow people and not tell them what to do instead of growing ourselves. We ask the teams for the answer, right? We're more guides, and we help the teams and help them facilitate problem solving. So we ask our managers to make this change, less disruption and more about understanding the new way. So with that said, this is the last slide. This is that slide I said we want to have a quick slide on courses. We offer courses for every role that we've seen here, at least the core course and sometimes advanced, including managers, right? And I will leave you with the thought that was my little, oops. Can't find the little guy, including training the leaders and training the managers, right? It's important that they all understand this new way of working. And the leading safe course is really just a safe overview of what safe is and why safe is and why it's part of and why it's why we want to change. And that really goes back to what we started with this whole talk, this whole webinar about, which is why does the organization need to change? Why do they want to change? And it really has to do with business agility, right? I think COVID was a great example of that this year, where if we had just stuck with what we had planned to do the whole year, a lot of organizations would not be in business. I think most people on this webinar could connect with the fact that when by April, you were not, majority of the work you were doing was not what you had planned to do in March, right? And how well can your organization respond to that kind of change? And that's the why for adopting SAFe. That is the why people have to think differently and act differently and behave differently. And here is the training, the role-based training that describes on an individual basis, right? SAFe is a system, it's a larger system. And we explain that system in context in each one of these classes. What's your role in that larger context? Right? In the support for making businesses more agile. So, and that's the message here, is that, you know, as part of any organizational transformation, everyone is thinking, how does this affect me? We have to be selfish, right? This is a big thing. And am I on the big picture? I can't think of an organization I haven't walked into where, you know, when you show the SAFe big picture, the first thing most people are thinking about is, where am I on the big picture? You know, where is my role? And that is certainly true. And in fact, in a lot of organizations, I've seen them out. This is a relatively useful exercise. They'll create a sheet, and on one side is the SAFe roles. On another side, they actually let it go to their HR roles. They look them up in HR, and they start doing a many-to-many mapping to understand who would good candidates be. And that's really what we've done in this webinar, is describe those SAFe roles, and to some degree a mapping of the other column of what kind of functions over here would fit into those SAFe roles. And of course, it's a many-to-many mapping. You're not going to just take all of your program managers and say you're now product owners, right? And really comes back to, where do people's interests lie? What are they passionate about? Where would they find enjoyment, right? Are they technical? Are they more product driven? Are they more development driven? I'd like to be on a team. A mass majority of the work of the people in a SAFe transformation are on teams. They're creating the solutions that our customers use, internal or external customers use, right? So that's the goal. That's the point of this slide, is to say that everyone has a role, right? It's foolish to assume that we have less work to do tomorrow than we do today. We need everybody to participate in this transformation. There certainly will be work to be done and going forward, and everyone will have a role to serve in that new world, in that new SAFe world. So with that, I'd like to close and take any questions. I think we got about 20 minutes left for questions.
Thanks so much, Harry. So we've all been listening so intently. There are not a whole lot of questions yet, but I think everyone can head over there and start typing. We do have a couple with, how many times can we watch this over again? Plenty. It is being recorded. It'll be out in your inbox in about an hour. And of course, Lightspeed, we do offer all of these SAFe role-based trainings. Please reach out to us. If you would like us to come on site virtually and do some private training, we're also available for that as well. All right, we did have a question earlier, Harry. I was asking for some clarification, but it was back to your Scrum Master role slides. And the question was around, do organizations bring on coaches to help with these skill sets? I know that you had mentioned hiring for the skill sets, but what are your thoughts on that?
So certainly, the Scrum, I think the question is regarding the Scrum Master role specifically. That's usually the role that most organizations don't have sufficient capacity. So certainly that's a place that we look externally a lot of times to hire consultants to come in. And there's a couple models. One is we can hire those roles to be permanent, right? We can hire good Scrum Masters that have the experience, that have done this for years, and they know what good looks like. They know what good lean agile principles and practices and ideas look like, and they can really help accelerate our adoption and accelerate the execution of our organization. That is one model. The other model is we bring in coaches to kind of work their way out of a job, to grow our competency. So there's a period of time where coaches are on teams, they're participating as Scrum Masters, but really their goal is to work their way out of a job, because we're trying to gain that Scrum Master, that Scrum Master competency within our organization, so that those coaches mentor and grow our Scrum Master community. And that's something that's a competitive competency for us. That's an HR role that we have now. Scrum Master is a role and a growth path within the organization. Two ways that different organizations might approach it.
Perfect. A follow-on Scrum Master question. Should the Scrum Master have development background, or a tester can become Scrum Master?
No development background is required. In fact, a lot of Scrum Masters come from areas where they don't have development. It's really going back to the slide. In fact, I'm going to bring the slide up here. It's like 20-ish. No, I had to guess. I guessed wrong. Yeah, so really they are more servant leaders, right? They don't. It's okay if they bring good ideas to the teams. Like, hey, teams, have we tried this technical idea? But they're not the idea man. They're more the organizer, coordinator. It's foolish to assume that a Scrum Master, even architects, would know more about the technology than developers, right? So we want our developers to have great technical chops, and we want to grow them and send them to conferences, or give them the time to experiment and play and bring in new technology, with innovation, right? The IPS, the Innovation and Planning Sprint, is a great place for engineers and developers to grow their technical skills. We don't expect that from Scrum Masters, certainly. So testers are certainly a good candidate. Project managers could come from developers, but it's developers that I don't want to be a Scrum Master. If I'm a developer, I don't want to be a Scrum Master in a transformation just because, oh, it's got a title. I don't want to just be a team member. I want to be a Scrum Master because that's got a title. That's completely the wrong reason to want to be a Scrum Master. Right? The passion shouldn't be about the fact that I get a title. The passion is because I want to grow the team and I want to remove our impediments, and I'm really worried about execution and flow and making sure that the team executes well. That's my motivation in life. That's where my passions lie. So you don't need to have a technical background, and certainly testers are one great candidate to draw from.
Great. So we have a comment, which I think we can hear your thoughts on. It says, so it appears the best RTE should come from the company. What do you think about that?
That's a good observation. I hadn't thought about it that way. Most RTEs do come from within the company. Interestingly, in our company, we hired externally for RTE. So I wouldn't say that's always true, but it depending on the size of the company, very large companies, it sure doesn't hurt for that RTE, especially on the removing of the impediments aspect, to understand the organization, understand the politics and the way the organization works, and how to get things done within the organization. There's the way that is publicized, and the way that there's alternate paths to get things done. So it certainly helps if they're aware of the organization and they're connected within can help if they're connected within the organization, because they certainly are trying to increase execution and improve flow within the organization. That said, it's also critical that they have these Scrum Master attributes as well, the ones we're looking at, right? They're servant leaders, they're empathetic, they lead through influence, because they don't have any authority to make things happen. They just have to be influential. So it is certainly a mindset change from a lot of traditional leadership, a lot of leadership positions, different way of leading.
All right, this one may be quick. Are an epic owner and solution architect the same?
No, certainly not. In fact, let's back up to the safe big picture to describe that. There we go. So the solution architect, oops, my pen here. So system and solution architect here, they are the architects for their respective value streams. And they are looking to the roadmaps and ensuring that the backlog items build out the proper architecture infrastructure, and they've got enough items to go to the experimentation, design alternatives, risk mitigation activities for the solutions that these value streams are building. An epic owner is up here inside of inside the portfolio. So these are initiatives that might span multiple agile release trains. Now, it's certainly the case that an epic owner is really responsible for shepherding that across within one value stream, or typically across multiple value streams. So if one of these epics was an enabler epic, and my agile release train was implementing a majority of it, It's certainly going to be the case that a system or a solution architect could be an epic. That is certainly possible, right? That I'm going to take responsibility of shepherding this epic across multiple value streams, and I'm the good candidate because my value stream is responsible for most of the work, or a lot of the work, but somehow it's centralized around my value stream. But I'm going to work with the other value streams to make sure all the work gets done. So I'm the epic owner. But that's certainly not the general case, right? So the answer is, it certainly is the case in some examples where the solution or system architect is the epic owner, but that's not a carte blanche statement. Epic owners come from a variety of places, right? Not just one.
All right, let's look at management. We have a couple of questions about management who are talking the talk and not walking the talk or walk. So with that said, if they're not game for training to understand SAFe better, what are some good strategies for helping them understand what they must do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see that a lot. In fact, the middle of the organization is usually the hardest to transfer. So we've got the bottom. We love this new way of working. It's more for a majority. Some people like sitting in their cube and working on one little design or work on one part, but a mass majority of people find it very freeing and liberating to be planning and work and deciding what to do and working with multiple teams. At the top, right, VP level, executive level, we usually need to tip those folks as well. They've gone through leading SAFe. We can get their time on this transformation because they understand the need to be more agile, and events like COVID are really going to disrupt us. So really we look to that, the mission of the organization and the why are we doing this organizational change, to go to that middle layer of management to say, you need to come to a leading SAFe class, and typically together. A lot of times it's great when we've got a bunch of managers going through that together, because they'll get their questions answered. They'll hear the responses from a common voice. So that they understand. It's critical that they understand the new way of working, and it's just like Deming says there. And he's got a little vignette there that if you can't come, send no one. And the story behind that is it's not a true story, but the story that he tells is that some manager wanted to improve quality, right? And so a leader said, "Oh, great, you want to improve quality? I'll send my quality manager to that event." And that quality manager totally misses the mark, right? So if we have a manager that says, "Oh, you want to improve the process? I'll send you my process people," because that's how we improve processes, by re-educating our process people so they can tell people the new process and the new way of working. No, that's not the adoption, right? If you can't come, send no one. We need managers, we need leaders to know the new way of working, and that responsibility cannot be delegated. And that's why this is, I think it's still the case in leading. It's the only slide that's repeated, because we say it up front and we say it at the end. We say it up front that this is a new way of working, you have to lead it, and we remind them at the end that, oh, this is a new way of working and you have to lead it, and that responsibility cannot be delegated. So it's critical to get them into some kind of training. How do you do it when they're reluctant? Hopefully that's where some kind of the leadership at the top can be influential in encouraging, incentivizing those folks to get to understand this new way of working. Sometimes it's just grabbing 2 hours of their time or an hour of their time, right? I certainly have been the case where I could not get an influential leader to come to a class, so we blocked an hour time box out on their calendar to explain what Lean Agile is, why it is, why we're doing this change. And interestingly enough, that person attended Leading SAFe after that 1 hour meeting. So sometimes it is, we as the Scrum Masters, the change agents, the consultants that get brought in, it's that labor of love, frankly, that we have to get more directly involved with some people than with others.
All right, next up, this person knows about several organizations that promote their senior Scrum Masters to RTEs. Does that make sense? What's the correct approach?
Well, I think organizations are still learning the new Scrum Master category for HR, because it is one. And great place to draw from RTEs is your Scrum Master community. I know that we want to promote it as a growth path, right? That I got promoted to a Scrum Master or RTE. I think that's the wrong reason. In other words, we don't promote a product manager, the solution manager, or a product manager, and epic owner. There's no there's no hierarchy or growth area inside of SAFe. They're not growing because we moved up the chain necessarily. No, they don't aspire as a developer to be a product manager, and then if I make it to Epic Owner, I'm at the top of the pyramid. That's not what we're trying to convey. People have different callings, they have different passions, they have different skills, and we want them to be in the right job. So I wouldn't characterize it as being promoted for sure, but certainly release train engineers, you know, a good place to draw from them is existing Scrum Masters, people with experience. And experience doesn't mean I've been a Scrum Master for a while, because I've got experience within the organization and with building bigger systems, right? And working with teams of teams, getting that type of experience. So I hope that helps. Not a direct answer, but I hope that helps. When I heard the promotion thing, that would be a cause for concern, because it's not a we don't call it a growth path particularly.
Got it. All right, let's do 2 more questions, then folks can run to their next one. We have a broader question about company structure. I know that there's not a one-size-fits-all kind of answer, but when you get questions like, how do I set up the PO department to scale on the enterprise, e.g., do I have a department at all? Should PO be a part of marketing? Where could you find those directions or knowledge based on SAFe to address those kinds of questions?
Yeah, and that's going to depend quite a bit on the kind of organization. I'm not going to bring up SAFe. Well, I can bring up SAFe website here. That's back on like slide 8, maybe. I'm going to guess. Go to slide 8. Where do I have the big picture? There it is. Yeah, so if you look at this business agility article, it describes kind of 2 functional areas, right? It describes the network over here of value streams, and then the hierarchy of the organization. Right? This is a hierarchy, and we really drive this work from Cotter. What SAFe is the network, right? We are the value streams that deliver value to, you know, that quickly can deliver value, make adjustments, and deliver the maximum amount of value to our customers. But the people here typically have some kind of connection back into the network that came from somewhere. I forgot the location you mentioned for your product owners. Are they part of marketing? Are they part of it? That's going to vary quite a bit based on organization. They're part of something for sure, right? They're part of, because we have these, you know, we need powerful functional areas, right? We got to have good marketing. We have to have good product division. We have to have good all functional skills, right? We want to excel. We have to have good quality technical skills and other skills in the organization. But we want to organize them around value, right? And that's what SAFe does well. So if you take a look at that business agility article, that describes that duality of organizing around value and delivering most value over increment versus how we're structured in the organization. So that's where I would go look. Where do product owners draw from? Certainly they're over here. I don't know they've always come from marketing. Marketing is certainly one aspect that would drive a product owner, but they do Gemba. They don't just market to customers, they understand customers. They want to get as connected and as close to their customers as they can. So I don't know that they always come from marketing, but they have to understand that the market need and the market segments for the products they produce, or product lines that they produce for their various customers. So not necessarily marketing, and it's going to vary widely based on the organization.
All right, let's wrap up with one final question. So Harry, are there any organizations you can name that you feel have done a good job of implementing SAFe? So I will stick in a link to Scaled Agile's customer stories, so you can read lots of case studies they have over there. But maybe, Harry, anonymously or otherwise, is there a really good story you can tell relating to the roles and how folks have adopted them?
Yeah, so I'm going to think back on, you know, a role-specific example. And I'm thinking about the organizations that we were describing where they map those roles. And I think really my success stories in SAFe, if I think about the common characteristic of what are the examples? Where do my examples come from? It is always that the senior leadership got it, right? And they were very influential in making sure that this adoption was going to be successful. They understood the need of, we need to be more agile, we have to reduce our costs, we've got to deliver value more quickly to the market. And they saw that need, and they were executive sponsors of an organization like a LACE or APMO or whatever you want to call it, your product management group, to help transform the organization. So having that executive leadership kind of trumps all. I mean, all the impediments we talked about can be trumped if senior leadership's on board, or can be trumped. The examples that you guys gave that were, I can't get management to buy in. Well, if senior leadership's bought in and there's a whole initiative, and then we can go up to that senior leader, for example, and ask them, hey, next time you do an all hands, your monthly all hands, mention some success story about how Agile's going over here, how safe adoption is going over there. Because if you get those senior leaders and some of their all hands start talking about it, all of a sudden, their peeps will notice, right? So there's little tricks like that that we can do once that senior leadership's on board. And I think that's critical, is having them on board, understanding the change, why we're changing, and using them as a way to communicate the why. And that helps everybody adopt to the new way of working, the new roles, and the new system.